Hey y'all, it's Christy with Teadoddles. Today I'm going to show you some basics on how to read a clothing pattern. Once it is, this is a PDF pattern that I've taped together and put together. I will have a video coming up about how to put together a PDF pattern, but this is something I wanted to work on today, so I figured I'd go ahead and do this video. This pattern, and also welcome back subscribers and welcome new subscribers. I'm happy to have you here with me in my maker shenanigans. I do like to do the sewing things, the yarny things, and the DIY things, so you'll see a little bit of all of that here on this channel. If you like to make things, you may like it here. All right, so this pattern is the Sophia top from by DG Patterns. I've picked out, I think I showed y'all the other day, the fabrics I'm going to use for this. It has a contrasting top. I was just doing some measurements to see where this top would hit me, so I could decide about the way I want to do things. That's a good idea if you don't have an image. I'm pretty sure I can go online and find an image of someone in the top to verify that where it hits. But you also want to measure yourself for where it hits, because it may not hit you in the same spot as it does whoever's wearing it in the picture. So, and this is related to PDF patterns that are printed. Patterns you buy in the store are similar, but they come on tissue paper. This is on printer paper, but as you can see, well, you can't really see on this piece, but on these pieces, I haven't cut out the very edges because some things overlap. I had to decide what size I need, and I marked it on here. This pattern runs from size 4 to 22. At the top I need a 16, at the bottom I need a 20 based on the measurements. So it's good that it has this seam up top. I can make adjustments a little more easily. So what I'm probably going to do is cut the size 20 and then a size 16 for the top and do pleats only on the back side, not in the front. I don't really want them in the front, just in the back, so it goes over my hips well, because it's a little bit of a flowy top but not a super flowy top. Alternatively, you could adjust down to the top to the 16 so that you don't have to put pleats in it, but that's my design choice, and I'll show you all about that whenever I actually sew the shirt together. So, but today what I wanted to talk about are some things that you will see on patterns. You'll see all these different lines, and typically they're in different, these were in color in the PDF. I just printed it black and white to save ink. So if you go on, they usually have a chart. Sometimes it's on the pattern when you print it out, sometimes it is not. This one is not on the pattern, so that's why I marked my sizes, so I would know which line means what size. So that's what all these lines mean. So this is where you would normally cut out a pattern if you're just doing one size. I like to keep all the sizes in my patterns like this because I make my custom pattern using tissue paper, and this is actually doctor's office sheeting, like they used to cover, you know, you go to the doctor's office and you have to sit on the table thing, and they always have this paper. That's what this is, because it was super cheap to buy a big box of this versus pattern paper or just regular tissue paper, which usually doesn't come big enough. And so that is a deal if you do a lot of sewing or use a lot of tissue paper for something. I'll put a link down below so you can find it on Amazon if you'd like. So that's what I usually do. Patterns you get in the pack, they come on tissue already. It's just easier to put it on the fabric and adjust. It's kind of see-through. This just gives me a durable pattern to make my my tissue paper pattern from, and I can store these together. If I lose weight or if I make a top for somebody else, I can always use this base pattern to start off with for any kind of pattern. So sometimes, usually will tell you what kind of, sometimes on the pattern pieces, each pattern piece will tell you what the pattern is. I think I'm out of frame. and what it's for. Now, some PDF pattern, most patterns you buy in a packet do have this on each pattern piece. Even on this tiny little interfacing piece, they have it printed. Some PDF patterns don't have it on every piece. Just be aware of that. I've come across that before. This will tell you it's a PDF sewing pattern. It'll tell you what piece it is, front, bottom, bodice. This is the back bottom bodice. Now, if you buy a pattern in a packet, a lot of times it'll have a letter or a number on it, and it'll tell you what number of pieces you need to make whichever pattern or whichever version of the pattern you're going to make. This one only had one version, so it doesn't have numbers like that. It's only got, well, it's got 6 pieces, including the interface piecings, so, or the banding pieces, really. And it'll usually tell you how many of them to cut. This says cut 1 on fold. So this is the fold line. I wrote it on here. A lot of patterns will have it printed on here, and sometimes they'll have a little arrow here, but this is the edge that you place on the fold of the fabric. Like when you cut patterns, the fabric you fold in half, because there's a lot of pieces you have to cut on the fold, and that just makes it easier to cut, easier to put your pieces on the pattern. You don't have to print out as big of a piece if it's cut on the fold, because it's symmetrical. These bottom pieces and the top pieces are like that. So that's usually what that means. Cut 1 on fold. If you need 2, it'll say cut 2. This one also says cut 1 on fold, and I think the other interface, all of these pieces are cut 1 on fold. Okay? So all of these need to line up on the fold of the fabric. Now, depending on how wide your fabric is, there's some tricks to be able to cut on the fold and not be wasting a whole side of the fabric, because everything's cut on the fold. And I'll show you that whenever I cut the pattern piece out. That'll be a different video, okay? Now, something else to pay attention to on a pattern for clothing is the grain line. The grain line is the direction of the fabric. The threads in the fabric run. All fabric has horizontal and vertical threads, so grain line could be either way. Typically they're talking about the grain line that runs parallel to the selvage of the fabric, and that'll be the end of the fabric that's binded off to keep it from unraveling. Now, if you have a stretchy fabric, depending on how you want your clothes to stretch, your grain line needs to face in the direction of the stretch, because there are some fabrics that only stretch in one direction, or they stretch more in one direction than the other direction, okay? So I want this to stretch in this direction, and my fabric does stretch in both directions, so I'm good just laying it on the fold parallel to the selvage. Now, I have had fabrics that I had to turn it the opposite way and just fold it the opposite way, because there was more stretch in the opposite direction, okay? So that's something to pay attention to. When you're making a top, you usually want it to stretch in this direction. It can stretch this way. It's just the most stretch should be in this direction, because that's where you're going to pull it over yourself. If it stretches more in this direction, it can sag. It can sag more, and that's just the nature of stretchy fabrics. So grain line is important because you want to line it up. This will be easy to line up because it's parallel to the fold edge. All of these grain lines are parallel to the fold edge, and all of my fabrics that I have picked, this is fine for the stretch in the top that I'm making. So this one is a pretty basic one. There are no notches on here to match. Sometimes these little things are actually where I matched up the pieces to make the PDF pattern. That's what those things are you're seeing, and this are numbers that they have on the piece, the pages, so you can make sure you put it together correctly. Sometimes you'll see in patterns like here, you'll have a notch that you need to match up with the back piece here, so that it fits together correctly. If it doesn't have notches, it's usually because this is the same length. and it's you just match end to end. There's no reason to have a notch. And this has built-in sleeves, so you don't have to match, you don't have to ease in a sleeve or anything like that. Notches are not really required for this, because as you can see, if I put this against this piece, these line up. Oh, you can't see because I don't have it in the frame. There we go. These line up end to end, so it's easy to match the pieces. You don't really need notches. You can put notches, you can just draw you a little notch if you match it up correctly here, if you really feel better with that. But if it doesn't have notches, you really just match up end to end. Sometimes it has the little triangles on the ends, on the seams, and that's where you match it up. Okay, now on this particular pattern, you'll see these little lines here, and they match the lines of the pattern sizes. This is the, I'm assuming, because I don't see it marked anywhere else on this pattern. Usually there's a waistline marked where it's supposed to hit you at the waist. And I'm assuming that this is what this is, because I don't see any other reason for it, because it's on the fold. So this is where, like for instance, on some tops, a lot of tops actually, I have to add 2 inches to the length so it hits me where I want it to hit me. This top is a longer top, so I shouldn't have any issues with that. But this is where you would make adjustments to the length of a top. You don't make adjustments at the bottom, because the hem is typically curved so that it lays correctly on your body. Now that is why you do it here. And what you would do is cut it and add in what you need to add in, and then you kind of grade this back up to even this out. And I'll show y'all how to do that in a different video. But that's what that line is for. It matches these lines over here, and you would find the one, and that's the waistline for that size. And that's where you would, yeah, I would have to draw a line straight across here to make that work on this pattern. Most patterns have a line that goes straight across, and it'll say waistline on it. This one just doesn't. This is a pretty basic pattern. Basic patterns don't always have all of those extras, and that's why I was showing just a basic pattern for now, so you could get an idea of what those things mean on your patterns. I'm going to be transferring this to tissue paper so I can make my adjustment. Like I said, since there's a seam here, I am going to cut out the size 20 in the bottom pieces, and the side, well, let me think about that just for a second. I say that. I just had a thought. So the front piece I will probably cut out as a 16, okay? Because then it'll match up the front bodice, since I'm not putting pleats in the front. The back piece I will cut out as a 20, so that I can put pleats in it and make it match. That way my seam on the side of the, will match up better. So when I get that transferred and everything, I'll make another video and show y'all how that goes along. Okay, so I hope y'all find this video useful. If you have any questions about reading patterns or anything you've seen on patterns that maybe you don't understand, just let me know, and I will do another video about it. And I will see y'all in the next video. Y'all remember to have a life lived creatively. Bye.